Those are all fantastic points that you make, and I think you're right. People really are paying attention when those very basic things like economy and values and society are eroded by these, strange corporate conglomerates. I've been talking a lot about them on my other show, who push for ESG policies and things like that. It's all very, very strange, and it's interesting. You mentioned how they want to sort of put the label of felon on him and make it nastier and nastier and nastier. I'll tell you what, those polls you mentioned give me renewed faith in the American people, and it was already very high after 2020, because as you said, he only lost the election by a few tens of thousands of votes, and that was with, as Time magazine put it in 2021, we all remember that article, the well-funded cabal of, highly paid entities who were changing laws and, peddling in different information to swing the election. And Donald Trump still only barely didn't make it back into the White House. I think the Democrats are terrified of Donald Trump, and perhaps they're trying to punish him even for having the audacity to run against Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Well, this is certainly right. And so when we see the current scandal that's embroiled the United States, finally, because the Republicans have decided to get off their duffs and actually start looking into the Hunter Biden laptop, that suddenly when they look into this situation, they've realized that it turns out that the Biden family has actually been accepting thousands and in some cases millions of dollars from Ukrainian oligarchs, from the Chinese Communist Party, from so many others. Now, there were people like myself and others who leaked that laptop and that hard drive all the way back in October of 2020. But I think that so many people in the United States, it was too outlandish. I think it was too outlandish for some people to actually believe that our politicians could have been bought off at the highest level like this, especially when it comes to a country that is certainly an adversary like the Chinese Communist Party. And then for some areas like Ukraine at the time, keep in mind this, prior to any war beginning, this is a time where it seemed like a very shadowy, corrupt part of the world, not just Ukraine, but the entire Black Sea area. We're talking about Romania, talking about Bulgaria, Turkey, etc. This is an area that is known. It's absolutely known for corruption. Georgia is there. And so when we look at the oligarchs and these sort of high-level oligarch fights that go in, people never wanted to question the fact that Hunter Biden could actually be involved in this, and that at the same time, while he was the vice president's son, he was using his father to achieve policy changes on behalf of these figures that were paying into the family. Now, when you say this is revenge for Hillary Clinton not winning, you hit on the exact correct point. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. Donald Trump was never supposed to win. And so we were never supposed to find out about these payments. We were never supposed to find out about the Biden family's corruption. This was supposed to be the Biden retirement plan, and he was going to go off to some beach in Delaware and he'd retire there. He was never supposed to be president because Hillary would be president. And then, I don't know, maybe she'd pass it off to Michelle, and then it would go to Chelsea Clinton, et cetera, et cetera. And yet Donald John Trump decided to run for president, and so their plans were all thrown astray. He threw the proverbial sand in the gears of the machine, if you will. And so when we look at some of these things, not to mention, by the way, and it's not spoken of that much anymore, but led headlines for years in the United States, the FBI spying on the Trump campaign. We now find that the highest levels of the Department of Justice, possibly even the Obama White House, people like Joe Biden himself were actually in the room when some of these operations were being discussed. Again, this was never supposed to be known by the world at large. It was all supposed to take place behind the scenes, the 2016, 2015, 2014 timeframe, all going on concurrently. And then Hillary was supposed to win and basically just wash it all away and go on with history as it was meant to be. The problem is you had this populist uprising, which was not only in the United States, because you can actually see elements of this in Britain with the Brexit vote. Yeah. You see elements of this across the EU with the backlash to the migrant invasion going on under Merkel in 2014, 2015. And you can certainly see elements of a nationalist populist uprising that's going on around the world, which it's very interesting. It's almost a paradoxical, right? And so whenever I'm doing an international forum, we did CPAC Hungary recently, we're doing CPAC Japan later this year, and people will say, well, wait a minute, you guys are supposed to be, populists, and you're supposed to be, so how can you be supporting other populists in other countries? I thought you were supposed to be against them. We actually did a forum in Mexico as well, and back in where my people hail from Poland, and so we've done events there as well. And so The reason is because we support the rights of each country to achieve their own self-determination. And we'd love to enter into, of course, mutually beneficial trade agreements with each other. The problem is that we've been forced to go down this road of a globalized, homogenized system whereby there are no countries, there are no differences, maybe basic language differences, but at the end of the day, all national borders are completely wiped out. All national distinctiveness is completely wiped out. You're basically like the Borg from Star Trek. Everything is all mixed together. All the people are mixed together because they want you just to be essentially a consumer of commodities. They want you to be a peasant. They want you to be a serf of the Russian Empire. They do not want you to be able to own anything. They do not want you to be able to achieve your own self-actualization. They want you to become, it's this phrase that Nietzsche referred to as the last man. They're trying to institute the last man, and the last man in Nietzsche, to paraphrase it, is everyone knows of Nietzsche, and it's controversial, his view of the overman, the Übermensch, right? But what's the opposite of the great man, the 10% of humanity that's always going to be the intellectual leaders, the political leaders, and what's the opposite of that is the last man, or the lesser man, the man who is mediocre, who celebrates mediocrity, the man who is not interested in achieving anything, not interested in attaining anything in life, who is happy to simply have their needs fulfilled, seek security, seek pacifism, seek safety, seek peace, seek harmony, and uphold the primacy of the state, as if this is the greatest good that humanity can achieve, when actually it's the opposite. It is the opposite of humanity. It's the opposite of living a true life. And so when we can feel that these walls and impositions against freedom, against basic freedom, that are being ratcheted up, and obviously there's no more obvious example of COVID-19, but certainly we see speech restrictions, we see so many other restrictions